Okay, folks, we're starting just a few seconds early, and I think we should be all okay. So I would like to welcome everybody tonight, and I think, you know why, there is an extra big and juicy number of people waiting to hear me this week. So far be it for me to disappoint anybody, but I think it will be possibly less ranty than
allow us a moment
than you might have expected. Nevertheless, we are going to talk about the situation in full. So I would first of all like to thank everybody who has already stopped by. Purple Norseman, Stigler, Grumpy Gamer, Keith Paulson, Private Public, Brian Jarvis, Carol Creeder, Dale Brady, Patrick's Tactics and Tutorials. Patrick, I sent you a message on Consum World. Please send me reply back to me with that information if you have not done so already. I haven't checked it in a couple of days. Lind Pratt, local Central Ohio, thanks for stopping by. Matt Taylor, if I'm missing anybody, I apologize, first of all. Amabel Holland, thank you for stopping by. Brian Jarvis, Stephen Roberts, make sure I'm not missing anybody. Kilroy was here. It's funny you should mention that. Stay tuned. Jim Jennings, Brant from the Armchair Dragoons, Adam. I lost track of the chat already. This is why I need a moderator, man. We're still working on that. So let's kill that music. Anyway, I thought I killed it. See, that's not automated. I got to do it by hand. So pardon me for that. That was supposed to be the Battle Hymn of the Republic. So to avoid problems with the YouTube thing, I am using music from the YouTube audio library. And that is why desktop audio should now be off. And that's why there's a somewhat limited selection. Although I guess let me just, since that one seems to have been unpopular, I think I'm going to delete it from the rotation right now. Like I said, it was supposed to be Battle Hymn of the Republic, and I think it was, but it was listening to a little bit of it, it was a fairly dreadful Battle Hymn of the Republic. So let's just ditch that. By the way, we are clipping still, and probably will still be for another, I'm guessing, 2 weeks, A Time for Trumpets. We are still drinking the Glenlivet Caribbean Reserve, which I think will only last could go away tonight. We'll see. We will see what happens. It depends how high my spirits get, if you know what I'm saying. So, Stigler, thank you for... I would rather you guys tell me if the music is a complete turd, which apparently it was. So, let me talk. So my stream improvement for the week is typed up bullet points, which I haven't done before. I've just been like scribbling notes in obscure handwriting. So, first things I would like to do is offer my congratulations to the Golden Geek Award winners. This is the Board Game Geek Awards. I would otherwise complain about Wargaming Award. It's not a Wargaming Award, it's like a general board gaming award that happens to include a Wargaming category, which was won, unsurprisingly, by Imperial Struggle, by designers Ananda Gupta and Jason Matthews, which you may recall I bounced off of fairly hard. I would like to try it again at some point. The big congratulations is for David Thompson, who is a regular here at the counterclipping stream here at Ardwulf's Lair, and whose game Undaunted North Africa won the 2-player game category. I suspect that category may tilt fairly heavily towards wargamers, so that could be a factor. I don't know. I didn't like research the award and see the past winners or anything like that. But nevertheless, Undaunted, the Undaunted games in general. I should have done all the clearing of my throat before the stream, but somehow it didn't need it at the time. The Undaunted games are neat, and David is awesome. And folks who have not looked at those and are searching for a light and or crossover war game should definitely give those a look. So congratulations again to David and to Ananda Gupta and Jason Matthews, whose Imperial Struggle won the Wargames category award. Sale video, still working on it. Part of that is just I haven't had it's going to be quite a bit of time to put that all together, to finish putting that together, and I haven't had quite enough time. Part of that is due to various home and garden projects. Part of that, however, is due to having been embroiled in some playtesting for OCS, which is a bit ironic considering the tale you're going to hear this evening. We are playtesting, and I'm not under NDA, so while I'm not going to show you anything from those things, I will tell you that I am participating in the playtest for Cross-Channel Attack, which is the OCS Normandy game, which is something I'm super excited about. And so I jumped at the opportunity to do that. And the other thing we're doing is so early that I don't want to talk about it yet, because I think it's still being discussed exactly how it is going to even get published. So, get some caffeine here. Coffee would actually go way better with scotch, but it's way too hot in here to drink hot beverages, so we're not doing that. We are into clipping Germans, by the way, so a big milestone has been reached here today. Another improvement that I wanted to get to is to say that there is now a channel of the week. So that I am going to mention and put a link in the video description to highlight newer and or underappreciated YouTube wargaming channels. Today, that channel is Kilroy Was Here, which was decided upon before Kilroy was here. You know what I'm saying? So check that out. There is a link to the channel in the video description, and he's done a very nice selection of stuff, and his content is highly watchable. As a general rule, I haven't really figured out like formal rules for this, and I'm not sure I'm going to. I'm not going to be mentioning channels that are like huge wargaming channels. Like we all know about the Players Aid and Stuka Joe and Callendale and that. So I don't feel that my mentioning them will be of any benefit to those gentlemen, as great gentlemen as they are whatsoever. So we will just assume that you know about all of the A-listers already, and we'll start mentioning some folks who deserve a little more attention. So Kilroy Was Here, check it out. I would like to remind everyone that if they would like to support Ardwulf's Lair, they can do so through a number of ways. First of all, follow me here, subscribe to me on YouTube, follow me on Twitch. The Twitch addresses and the social media addresses are in the... Have I messed this up already? Are in the video description as well. You can also like the page on Facebook. All these social media platforms have different nomenclature, and it's super confusing, especially when I'm half in the bag. So check those sources out. You can also check out the Patreon and merch store, both of which are listed in the video description. And as usual, because I am terrible at planning, I do not have the coffee mug, but I do have one of the t-shirts. So the merch is fantastic, and I am super duper happy with it. So check the merch out, and it's I think priced very reasonably. Let me put it that way. Okay, upcoming to Ardwulf's Lair, and we'll talk about this again, but this time I wrote it, at the very end of the show, but I wrote it down this time so that we would not have to listen to my brain creak and whine and grumble because I can't remember half the things that I have actually done and uploaded to the channel. Tomorrow there will be an RPG video. The topic is going to be RuneQuest and Mithras. If you want the full story on that, please check the video out tomorrow at 10 a.m. On Wednesday at 6:30 p.m., I will be streaming as usual with Dan Pancaldi. I believe we are on Dan's channel, No Enemies Here, this week, so check that out. I am a bit unclear as to what the topic is, but it is Dan's go, so he can decide what he would like to do as a topic, and I will just roll with it. So I am completely comfortable with that. There will be an unboxing video on Thursday, and I will not tell you what unboxing video that will be, but I will tell you why. And that is because if you have been reading the chat, you are already aware that some copies of the Korean War from Compass Games have made it out into the wild with relatively severe registration issues on the counters. Mine was one of those. So I have emailed. Now is when I mentioned not a show sponsor, although they did send me a copy of the game, for which I am grateful. Although I pre-ordered it too, because I was super excited. I played the the Victory Games Korean War, and it's the best game on the topic, right? So highly anticipated game by me and a lot of other people, and unfortunately, one of the three counter sheets had a mild registration problem, and one of the three counter sheets had a severe registration problem. Now, I know some people will probably make a little too big a deal out of this. I am not inclined to make a particularly big deal about it for a couple of reasons. One, I happen to know that Compass Games just relatively recently got a new domestic counter die cutter or die cutter / printer, and I'm sure that is a factor in any growing pains they might have with that relationship. So that's the thing. And also, I emailed sales@compassgames.com, and they are going to send me replacement counter sheets, and it's not a problem. Okay, so this is not the customer service horror story you came to hear, however. Where's the tray? Where did I put the tray? Oh, the tray's right under the other tray. I gotta get the British out of here, though. I'm sure I will need more German space in here. We might be doing that this evening. If you hear what sounds like crazed cats running around killing each other in the background, that's exactly what it is. Crazed cats running around and killing each other in the background. So, okay, so with that in mind, let's check out. Registration error means that the printing is off from the die cutting. So on mine, and I don't want to show the pictures, I sent the pictures to Bill, the die cutting line is directly through the factors on the counter. I am almost positive that the collation of the counter sheets was being done at the printer or die cutter. Because the counters in this particular game are, they came discreetly wrapped. It's not plastic wrap, they're in, paper bands. But the third sheet was, no problem. It's totally fine. The second sheet, interestingly, somebody up thread said that they had their North Korean sheet was messed up. My NATO UN sheet was messed up. So let me see if I have anything in the chat that I need to address immediately. Stigler mentions the Compass used to have a lot of complaints, but in the last year you heard rumors that they cleaned up their act quite a bit. It's my belief that some, at least, of those complaints were overblown. That is not, however, to say that Compass didn't have their share of problems. I don't want to give them a complete pass or anything because, you don't want to see that stuff. But I do feel like Compass has been working extra hard to prevent those kinds of problems. And now that they're aware that there's registration problems, they can take steps to remediate that as well. Okay, so Michael DePaul from Akron, Ohio. My wife is from Akron. It is a post-industrial hellscape. I wouldn't wish that upon a convicted felon. I am sorry that you are forced to live in Akron, Ohio. I got a speeding ticket in that. It wasn't a speeding ticket. It was somebody rammed me, and because the lady who rammed me was willing to lie to the police and I wasn't. She wasn't declared at fault, and I was in the bag for the insurance money, which made me mad. So, Yeah, so when I say it in places, it was worse in other places. I mean, it varied across the sheet, but the one sheet that the UN sheet was like universally bad. I would have had to complain. The middle sheet I probably wouldn't have mentioned if it hadn't been that the other sheet, that the third sheet was totally wrecked. So I gotta call them anyway. So I might as well tell them about both of them, right? One thing that irritated me about the Golden Geek Awards was there was an award for Best Game App, and it was won by Root, and I know that Root was not a 2020 release, but the app might have been, but it's like, I don't know. I mean, it's just going to be used as a marketing plank, and I don't necessarily think we should have a category for every little tiny thing. Best Meeple. Why don't we have Best Meeple? I mean, there's all kind of cool fancy custom meeples that get released in games. Why not Best Meeple? Now they'll probably put that in. So if I want to commission if you guys use that at Board Game Geek. So, all right, let's make sure that we that we are somewhat. Adam asks, give a rough estimate of total time required to clip a time for trumpets. So bear in mind that I am not, when I'm doing this, I am not at my most efficient clipping speed, okay? But I would estimate that it is going to take me something like 12 hours of clipping to clip this thing. Also, that I am never clipping for the entire 2-hour duration of the show. So, I also have a requested topic, which I'm going to have to get back to later in the show, which we'll talk about after the show topic, which is Jaws of Victory, which has just been mentioned in the chat, versus The Third Winter, which is a good question, excuse me, that we will explore in a little bit of detail later on. So let's talk about customer service issues. And I know I wanted the topic to reflect a bigger discussion than the problem that I had with MMP this week, okay? So we can mention general, and I don't mean printing errors, okay? So just to get that out, like the registration problem, that's not a customer service problem, that's a manufacturing problem. And the customer service is where I email and they send me a new sheet, which they are doing, and I am sure will arrive speedily, and it will be beautiful. If I'm going to guess, Stigler, and say that I could clip the entire game in probably 8 or 9 hours if I was just like sitting here focused and had some garbage TV program on to fill my ears while I was clipping. This is not me at super duper clipping efficiency. So, I have been asked, why have you not yet had coverage of... actually, I was clipping to Lord of the Rings Extended Edition a couple months ago. Why have you not had coverage yet of the newly released Hood Strikes North, latest in the Great Campaigns, the American Civil War series, one of my favorite series, and which I have mentioned many times on this channel? So, the deal is that I had one of the earliest pre-orders for Hood Strikes North, and I had ordered 2 copies, plus 2 copies of the Stonewall Jackson's Way 2 counter sheet, plus at least 1 copy of the Stonewall Jackson's Way 2 reprint, which is a thing I already own, but it's one of my favorite series, and I want to support it and all that, and so it was quite a bit of money, but I knew that it had been shipping for about 2 weeks, and I know that I should have heard something, and I moved in November or whatever it was. So what that meant was that I was pretty sure there was some kind of problem. Now, for those who don't know, Multiman Publishing changed their website sometime in the last few months to a, I think, noticeably improved website, but one of the things that they didn't do or couldn't do for whatever reason is import the old pre-ordered information into the new website. So if you had orders on the old website, you couldn't change them. They would still happen, but you couldn't change them or see them. So if you needed to do so, you needed to call the office. So I have been trying for about, I knew this was going to happen, so I had been trying for about 3 weeks to call Multiman Publishing. And I mean, I wasn't trying every single day, but I was probably trying 2 or 3 times a week, and during business hours, right? And we're both in Eastern time. So most of those times, I think I got through to voicemail once. I left a voicemail, they didn't call me back. The other times were times when I got a message that said the office is closed. Please call back during business hours. And I'm like, it is business hours. It's on a Wednesday. Are you not? I mean, you know, but things, you know, it's been a crap 18 months. So, you know, they're doing whatever they got to do, and I don't have a big problem with that. So on Monday, I did get a hold of them, and they actually answered the phone. So, I told them this whole story that I have just told with you so far. And they said, well, we can't find your pre-orders, and not only that, we can't find your account on the old website. And I'm like, okay. So we verified things like my name is spelled correctly, blah, 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 blah. They're like, yeah, I'm sorry, we just can't find your account. So I'm like, okay. Now I think there's a couple of reasonable ways to approach this from their side, okay? One is you could assume that the customer is, let's just make the customer happy, and just put it in for them, and yeah, they'll be at the end of the line, but whatever. I wouldn't have been, even though it wouldn't have been, you know, I do pre-order early for this reason, because Multiman ships in the order that the stuff was entered. And that's one way to have handled that, but it's not the only acceptable way to have handled that. So I asked, okay, so what do we do to fix it? The answer I got was, well, you'll just have to wait until it comes back up for order on the website and order it then. And I'm like, well, then I wouldn't get the pre-order discount, right? And they said, well, no, you wouldn't. And I said, well, I can order it now from NWS and get a discount that is very comparable to the pre-order discount. I'd rather support you guys. And I said that. I'd rather support you guys directly. And she said that, well, there's nothing I can do. I said, oh, okay. Thanks anyway. And I hung up, walked over to the computer, went to NWS's website, ordered 2 copies of Hood Strikes North, got charged $140 or $150 or whatever it costs, and that was that. Then Multiman calls me back and said, oh, we found your account. It's under the name Gary. First name Gary, last name Gary. You must have put it in that way. And I'm like, no, I didn't put it in that way. You have shipped me on that account numerous products that were addressed correctly, whether they were pre-orders or sale orders or just orders, whatever. Everything happened fine until you migrated to the new website. Now, after mentioning this on Twitter, I was approached by a number of individuals who have also had their information lost in MMP's website transition. I don't know if, you know, they made a fuss about it or not, but I made a little bit of a fuss. So I was, at that point, I did it the knee-jerk thing, which was to say, please cancel all of my pre-orders, both for the old website and the new website, including the pre-order I just put in yesterday for the new ASL product. So that's that. And they said, okay, we'll take care of that. And I said, thank you very much. Have a great day. Individuals got involved, and there is currently a conversation between Brian Yaus, who is one of the co-owners of MMP, and myself, and we are attempting to work towards an amicable and solution that works for everybody involved. So I do greatly appreciate that Brian has gotten involved in this situation, and there are additional things that I don't want to mention that that are part of one of those conversations, including, you know, some things related to their reaction on the phone. I would have considered an escalation answer to have been appropriate. This is messed up. you say you have had pre-orders with us before. You are clearly an outstanding customer, or you just randomly registered when we put the new website up and ordered hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of stuff, which would be strange, but okay. So I don't know what to do here. Let me research this and or escalate this and call you back. That would have been a completely acceptable answer. And if I had to wait a week for an answer, okay, whatever. I mean, I'm not, nobody's, these are games here, right? I mean, nobody's replacement kidney is on the line. So let's not make a bigger deal about it than we should. But at the same time, if their website system if their pre-order system, you can't trust it, do I want to pre-order with them anymore? Now, the advantage is that you would get a pre-order ordering from them much sooner than you'll get it from NWS. NWS is not the quickest thing to ship when they have it in stock. So the best price for Wargames, if they carry the specific thing that you are talking about, is to be had at NWS. However, if you are in a hurry for it, order it from somebody else. Amazon if you can, but you'll pay more for it from Amazon. But like cool stuff will ship within like 1 to 2 business days every time. Miniature Market will ship between 1 and 2 business days. And this is stuff that's in stock. NWS will ship, if it's in stock, in 1 to 3 weeks. That's just the way it is. So that's fine. And if you are pre-ordering it, then the way it's working is he's a retailer, so he's getting his stuff from most publishers after the pre-order people are. So he's got 60 copies on pre-order, or whatever the number is. I have no idea. And all the pre-orders go out to individual customers who have pre-ordered directly through MMP, for example, and then they start shipping to retailers, and who knows where Chris is in the retailer queue. So you're looking at minimum weeks and weeks and weeks after the publisher starts shipping it. So I mean, I don't have an issue with waiting. If it's especially if it's a brand new item, then I want to get a video out about it. So I want to. But that's it. Now, Gamers Armory. So the guy that runs Gamers Armory is also this like sales manager or whatever he is for MMP. So their situation might be slightly different now. But he's a retailer, so he's getting it after all the pre-order people. So even if they were shipping it within a day or two, and I'm not sure why, but it seems like MMP only gets about 50 orders a day out. That's a guess, but I'm guessing I'm not wrong. Yeah, Brian, you may have been. I mean, they're already shipping it. It was down it's not available on the website now. That's what she told me. They told me that there was nothing they could do, and I would just have to eat the almost $150 north of $200 difference that it would have been, and I don't think that's reasonable. I don't think that's a good customer service answer. So. I was unwilling to send that kind of personal information over email. So let's circle back here and talk about any answers that we have had in the chat. All right. Joe Prez mentions customer service issues. Can anything be worse than Avalanche Press being 13 years late with their Ironclads and Red Desert games? Okay, and I was going to mention the folks who own the rights to Europa system and the whole Total War thing, which might not be 13 years late, but it might be at this point. I don't know. But, I mean, let's face it, that's a dead dog, man. That ain't this. That's just, you're never seeing that. If people paid actual money for that, then they ought to be talking to lawyers. So... If nothing has changed, I mean, I didn't set up an account with MMP with my own name incorrect. That didn't happen. So, like I said, the situation is moving forward in a positive direction at this time, which I would like to emphasize. And I should have maybe opened with that. Brian Jarvis asked, had I received any pre-orders placed under the old system, my old account, since they switched websites? Hungarian Rhapsody was the last one I pre-ordered, but they hadn't changed the website over yet. So, and I couldn't find any emails, like email confirmations or anything like that. I don't want to be the Mr. High Maintenance. I don't want to be, man Karen as we're saying nowadays. And I don't want to be an asshole to the person on the phone. And I don't think I was, but definitely I was brusque and upset. So Sempronius Maximus says they had a crappy customer service experience lately where he's now just tempted to cancel all his remaining pre-orders. So I will say it out loud if you want to tell us who that's with. I have pre-orders going with Compass, with Legion Wargames, with GMT, and I did, until this week, have many hundreds of dollars of pre-ordered stuff through MMP. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens, because we right now have a situation with Third Winter where it's a game that I want to feature relatively heavily on the channel, and we're going to literally talk about Third Winter more tonight, and I'm going to talk about it in very positive terms. I'm not going to bitch about it because I had a bad time on the phone with them this week. So yeah, you should totally order Third Winter, and I think that if you have an account on their current website, I think it'll probably be fine. But I had tons of stuff ordered. I mean, I had ordered Devil's Cauldron and some of the... I think I might have had something for the SCS North Africa game in the pipeline, and for the new BCS game, Race for Bastogne, I had that pre-ordered as well. Can I trust their pre-order system at this point? I'm not sure I can. And because I'm going to get charged at an unpredictable time, and I can't check on that because it's off their website. And from a technical standpoint, having done this kind of work, it would have been not an enormous technical challenge for them to import, not put in by hand, but import all of the old pre-order data from their old website to their new ordering system. That would have been from a technical standpoint, again, what it would have cost is another question, and maybe that number is not reasonable. But that is something that could have happened. So 107 people watching. How about that? So that was actually quite a bit rantier than I thought I was going to get away with. Because I don't, like I said, nobody's getting a kidney held up or anything because of this. It's games, right? So if I have to not do a Hood Strikes North unboxing video until 5 months after Hood Strikes North releases, because that's how long Chris at NWS takes to get it to me, well, it sucks for me, but it's what it is, and we're not, nobody's actually going to die because of that. Amabel, I that is pretty much exactly where I was coming from. I have been through Gary, Indiana. It is another post-industrial hellscape. I don't know what they used to make in Gary, Indiana. In Akron, they used to make tires. Goodyear and Firestone, I think Firestone, were both down there. And Goodyear's corporate HQ is still there. But they don't make tires in, any kind of tires anymore in Akron, Ohio. Goodyear doesn't anyway. Maybe there's somebody I can't name offhand. But the roads in Akron are like the blasted surface of the moon. So Stephen, he says he doesn't need to be in a hurry for any shipment. In many cases, I completely agree. However, one of the things I do is run a YouTube channel. So timeliness in getting new releases is important to me. Is it critical? Is it the thing that I have to crap my pants over? No, but it is important, and it, it's timely, and there's not. I don't support all the systems that MMP does to that extent, to the same extent that I do for GCACW and OCS, right? Because those are the ones I like. I mean, I like GTS a lot, but I don't have, we don't have a regular GTS game going in town here. I get to play it at conventions, So I don't have the play experience or depth of knowledge about it or anything like that to do as much about GTS as I do for OCS. I mean, OCS, I feel reasonably up on the rules, right? Even though we have questions almost every week. We didn't last week, actually. What are we currently doing? We wrapped up Blitzkrieg Legend with a French victory. The Germans just didn't get off the starting gate quite fast enough. Okay, so I would love to check out 4X that I've just never managed to. It actually looks like exactly my kind of game. Somebody has mentioned that. IGY has mentioned that if by the way you would like your name pronounced correctly here in the chat, please pick a pronounceable name, or at least tell us in the chat how you would like it pronounced. I will accept those, and I will even try to remember them. So, like I said, it's not like it's unthinkable that there could have been some kind of data glitch that resulted in my account getting messed up, but that's on MMP, not on me, the consumer. And not only is it not inconceivable, it is, as somebody who has done this, it is inevitable. It will happen. You will have data problems when you do that kind of conversion. That's just that. And we know, like I said, I know from talking to people that it happened with other people. So I am not the only person with whom they have had a similar conversation. And I think it's pretty disingenuous for the person on the phone to insist that I must have put in my own name incorrectly to be the cause of the problem. So, and they didn't ask me for any other information that they could search by, like email address or anything like that, because I could have given them that information. That would have been completely fine. I could have given them an address, and that's probably how they found it in the first place. So, okay. All right. Now, I mean, let me also mention that I have had a number of, I get to go back to the registration issue. I have had a number of manufacturing glitched items in MMP games, and in the past, I have either called them or sent an email to their customer service, and they have fixed the problem, and it's no issue. In fact, I think I had a delaminated counter sheet from some game. I had a counter sheet where I got like 0 copies of one of the counter sheets and 2 copies of another counter sheet, and I think that was Beyond the Rhine. And I had a registration problem on a counter sheet in The Greatest Day, which is an expensive game, right? So I was fixed. That's one reason why I don't keep games, generally speaking, in the shrink wrap. Because if there is a problem like that, I want to identify that problem while the publisher still has the parts to fix it with. Let alone if you buy like something, from Avalon Hill, whatever, in the shrink wrap, and it's like, oh, I need a replacement counter sheet for my copy of Napoleon's Battles or something like that. And well, good luck with that. Buy another copy. So, I mean, I don't expect the people at running the phones to necessarily be IT experts either, where they're like putting a SQL query together to fish somebody's information out of an old database, right? They're presumably is a tool for that. Well, they presumably have a tool for that, but I don't know anything about their IT infrastructure. Maybe they don't. Maybe they printed them out and they have a filing cabinet. That's possible. I mean, is it primitive? But I mean, that's possible. But I didn't feel like an effort was made in this case to work with the customer, which is why I mentioned it online, which is why we're still talking about it. So. End of day, and we will end up talking about this again next week, because I'm going to guess and say that I will probably have more information about where and how this is going to be resolved next week than I do tonight. So, I will mention that our other compadre, ID Jester, whose channel I have mentioned before, had a negative customer service experience with DVG not too long ago, and he has a video on that. So if you want to go check his rant out, I think he swore more in his. I'll tell you that. So, and that's always worth some level of entertainment value. YouTube sends me a notification that says there's something live on your channel right now, which I guess is nice. Just, I mean, I don't hate that they send me that. I don't see the use in it, however. So I am an IT guy, but I'm not their IT guy, right? I mean, there's a lot of different ways to set this kind of stuff up, and I'm not going to guess how they have done that. I can only tell you what is possible. So, okay. So, Brian Gash says the only company he's had trouble with is Canvas Temple Publishing, possibly because it is one dude in his garage, which I believe to be an accurate assessment of their scale of their operation. Kaiser Bill sent a list of stuff to Noble Knight to buy and got an offer within 3 hours of sending my email. I think they took my stuff that they had in hand and took about 3 hours to evaluate it. Actually, admittedly, it was, work was involved, so I don't want to understate that. Greg Grant says that MMP's GTS maps are things of absolute beauty. I completely agree. I really like the GTS maps. I have heard various complaints about them. They are not at all gamer. Well, so GTS is not a gamers series. It is an MMP series. And let me circle back here just to make something absolutely clear. I am not endorsing that anybody should not buy MMP products. I'm not saying that. I am going to continue to buy MMP products. What we are waiting to make a decision on is whether I will continue to order MMP products from MMP. Because the fact of the matter is I like a lot of what they do. They do, generally speaking, very high quality work, and they have a number of game systems that I really enjoy and will continue to support, both as a player and on the channel. So there's nothing that dramatic that is going to come out of this. Just so we're clear on that. I think I was clear on that, but and nor am I advising anybody else to make any specific decision. I'm not saying I won't, but I mean, I am not saying anything like that at this time. John Launcher says that his worst customer service experience was with Decision Games, which he called about getting a game and shrink with no counters. He accused me of lying, steal, or murdering them. Okay, so at some point, we are probably going to have a Decision Games topic here on the Counter Clipping stream. Won't be tonight. Doc is a cranky old coot, and I am not sure he would even take offense to me saying that, but he is in fact a cranky old coot, and the only time I've seen him smile is when I bought about $500 worth of stuff from him at Origins that one year, and he was happy about that. So like I said, I'm going to defer Decision Games talk to its own topic when we decide we're going to do that. I have not really had any customer service experience with Decision Games aside from actually speaking to Doc in person at Origins. I have never called them. They have a process by which you register your games and they automatically send you the errata stuff. I do that, and I have never had a problem. They send me the errata. Usually it takes about a year and a half after a game's release, anyway. So, and I've never had like a bad components or missing pieces or anything like that. So, so from that standpoint, I have no idea what their customer service is because they don't have the kind of manufacturing or order processing problems that would. I guess have I ordered from them directly? No, I haven't. So I don't know about that either. So, all right. So interestingly, one half of one of the counter sheets for the Korean War is blank, which is a weird choice. I mean, I don't care, but it's a weird choice. Amabel Holland says she expects more from single-person / two-person companies than those that have customer service staff because those one or two people are going to be better able to make it right on the fly rather. So, yes, that's true. In our conversation, which I'm not going to repeat verbatim because that would, I don't think, be an okay thing to do, but with Brian Yaus, again, one of the co-owners of MMP, he named the people that answer the phone as office staff and not customer service staff. And that may be significant. If they are, I mean, I don't want to read too much into that nomenclature, but taking it at face value, it may mean that they do not have customer service skills. And if so, if that's correct, and to be blunt, it felt accurate when I was on the phone with them. If that's the case, then they probably should have somebody else answering the phone who does have customer service skills. Because it is a customer service, it is a customer-facing position, right? If I don't know what their call volume looks like, right? If they have like 2 people call a day, which is not the impression that I have, but then, you know, maybe they can't hire a dedicated customer service person. But, you know, you've also got to have some willingness to work with people, too, and not just say, well, screw you, you're out of luck. I mean, I don't think that's the right way forward. I don't think that's the right way forward for a big company, a small company, or any size company. And I'm a bit baffled at the idea that that's the right answer. Again, there are other components to that conversation that I don't wish to mention at this time, so we won't. Let me just take these apart in the correct way here. And like I said, I expect to. I'm going to try and get away from this specific thing for now. But like I said, we will definitely be talking about it next week as well, depending on what new information has occurred. And if no new information has occurred, we'll definitely be talking about it next week. So the best part of the rant is probably now behind us. So Amabel says she used to do customer service and be limited in what he could do. Say that's absolutely true. Okay, so let's talk about a specific thing that may or may not apply to multi-man publishing or to any specific wargame publisher, but which affects many smaller companies, and that is unrealistic ideas on the part of the company owners and or management about what size company they are actually running. Some companies want to feel like they are running a billion-dollar business, and they're not. And this is a general statement, again, not to reflect on our particular situation as it occurred this week. So that could be an issue. It's well, we have these procedures. Well, I mean, okay, you have procedures, and I absolutely, as somebody who has written procedures, who has been the guy whose job it is to write the procedures, and been the compliance person to make sure that the procedures are adhered to, there is value in that. However, there is also a thing called continual improvement, which, among other things, is the idea that no process that you might be using right now, no process or procedure is perfect. There is room to improve it, and you should be looking for ways in which your current procedures are not functioning correctly and working to change those procedures to make them work correctly where appropriate. So I've been the continual improvement officer. So that is a thing that I have in mind all the time, and which, a company, a small company is probably not going to have a continual improvement officer, but I've worked for companies who are big enough to have that kind of thing. But even if you haven't, it's a basic business management skill to do that. It's a basic managerial responsibility to look for stuff like that. And if you don't know that, then maybe you shouldn't be in that position. So, all right. David Harrison mentions that he has had very positive customer service experiences with New England Simulations. Very responsive. So I suspect, we all want, I think I can say this, I think we all want to think that because we are in a small and tightly knit hobby, and we all know each other for the most part, at some level, even if it's just interactions on social media, we want to think that, at least for customer service, everybody's doing the right thing, because customer service is like the interpersonal side of the otherwise transactional relationship. So, you want to think that, and I've had overwhelmingly in the past, I have never had a serious customer service experience with a Wargame publisher. Let me put it that way. Part of it's because it's, either you're ordering something, and that's strictly transactional. You give them money, they give you game. That's it, right? It's like going to the grocery store and buying a head of lettuce. So you're only really going to have a customer service experience when you have to have the interpersonal interaction with the company, right? And I've had, I've called MMP, I've never called Compass, but I've met all of them in person. And I do email correspondence when I need to with sales at compassgames.com, which is Bill. And haven't had a problem there. I've called GMT. I have done the chat thing. Email tends to, by the way, for those who end up having a situation where you got to call GMT for something, email is not the best way to do that. Either use the chat function on the website or call them. And I think you generally get better resolution through the chat. But, if you don't want to talk, to people on the phone, that's what you got. John Longshire says the same thing happened when Joan Crawford called Pepsi. That was in the movie. ID Jester, you have just been mentioned in the chat with your customer service deal with DVG. So hopefully, I'm hoping they came up with a solution for you too. At least I'm getting to talk to MMP, and we're working on it. So. So it sounds like some Pronius is another person who has had a issue with orders from the old website. So that's 4 people that I'm aware of, including myself. So I'm guessing they don't have a customer service script, by the way. That's my guess. Should they? Probably no. I don't think so. But, if they do, I don't think so. Maybe you have a script that says, "Thank you for calling Multiman Publishing. This is blah, blah, blah speaking. How can I help you?" That is the level of scripting I would imagine would happen at a company that size. A lot of times, customer service is being directed through chat, so it can be sent offshore. I'll tell you that. Because Americans often won't react well when dealing with people with an accent. Okay, all other factors aside, I think that's a problem that a lot of companies who have to have some level of customer service have. So for those folks, chat may be a better option. So, and we're going to get into sore territory from non-gaming stuff too if I don't get off this topic. So. Calorie says that when transitioning to a different website or system, mistakes are bound to happen. Yes, absolutely. I've done that. So I get it that mistakes are inevitable. But instead of saying, no, it's your fault, customer, we're just going to cost you $250 in extra charges. Or I could just not buy your product. I mean, come on. I don't think that's a reasonable position for the company representative at whatever level it is to take. I just don't. Again, there are other factors that might be in play that are part of the ongoing conversation that I don't want to get into in detail. So I'd love to have Hood Strikes North right now. I'd love to be playing it and punching it tonight instead of this thing again. Although I got to get this done because I want to be able to put it away and put it back on the shelf until it gets played. And I do expect to play this. All right. So let's talk about. Let me get to the query. Excuse me, because I was asked about this in a message. All right. Jeff Christopher says he watched the unboxing of the New England Simulations Jaws of Death game about the Cherasky Pocket, and how would I say the game rates compared to OCS titles, particularly the Third Winter. Okay, so there's 2 OCS titles that... Actually, I think it's only one. That cover this topic. One is the upcoming The Third Winter. And again, I was part of the playtest of Third Winter, which I enjoyed it tremendously. I loved playing it. I think it works really well, and I am delighted with it. And I don't own Jaws of Victory. My unboxing was a buddy unboxing. However, I was very favorably impressed by the component and other quality of Jaws of Victory, and it is acquiring a very solid reputation, as, frankly, has everything from New England Simulations. New England Simulations is a super small company. They release a game every few years. So whatever they're doing, they're taking their time and getting it right. If you are interested... Now, here's the other thing, though, is that the scale on Jaws of Victory is 1 mile per hex, and I think it's 1 mile per hex, and it's divisions and down for unit scale, okay, which is roughly the same unit scale as OCS, but the counter scale is very different, or the map scale is very different, so that's going to result in the units being spread out over a bigger area and generally speaking lower density than an OCS game. And I've seen it on a table at Compass Expo. Dan, I will talk about Imperial Struggle after this. So the scale's different. So I think it is doing a disservice to both games to compare them directly. And Jaws of Victory covers like January and February of 1944. Third Winter covers September of 1943 all the way through like May of 1944. So the Cherasky Coruscant Pocket is just one of a lot of stuff that is going to be going on in your Third Winter game. But Jaws of Victory is not like this little one-map game, right? In the giant panorama that is Third Winter, it's I think a 2-map game, or is it a 4-map game? It's pretty big. I think it might be 4 maps. Is it 2 miles per hex? Well, it's 5 in OCS. So up to now, these other tidbits I could spill, but I won't. The OCS East Front scale is 5 miles per hex. Brant, thanks for stopping by. So I think the two games are not specifically comparable, but if you are specifically interested in the Cherasky Coruscant Pocket situation, maybe you just go get Jaws of Victory. Now, Jaws of Victory, I'll also mention, is also a series game. It uses the venerable Victory in the West series rules from SPI. And a lot of people still like those. That continues to be a design touchstone for a number of designers. So A lot of people like it. I've never played a Victory in the West game, so I can't necessarily comment. I just assume the Blue Jackets are losing. So if you want to focus in on that Cherasky pocket, then I think you should go with Jaws of Victory, frankly. Unless you have a specific thing for OCS. Now, there is a Cherasky course on pocket scenario or two in Third Winter as well, so you can just play that. And I want to say that it plays on 2 maps. I could be wrong about that, since I haven't played that particular scenario. I'm trying to think if I have a Great War in the East. I don't think I do. By the way, thank you, John. That stuff arrived. So you'll be seeing, the rest of you will be seeing some stuff that John sent me soon. One of which is going to be in the next round of giveaways, which is something I also meant to mention. So let's mention. Oh, where is it? I always have trouble finding this stupid thing. We're probably going to hit 4,000 subscribers to the channel sometime in the next couple of months. So, next 2 to 3 months is what it's looking like. When that happens, and I keep threatening to do a Twitter giveaway too, which I'd still like to happen, but when that happens, we will have a multi-stage, multi-game, multi-giveaway thing happening. So, I do appreciate the support from everybody, even if your support is just being here in the stream and I mean that's not less important than throwing me $3 on Patreon, right? Next Wargames Awards show, the guy that you should ask that question of just left, so I don't know. Expect there to be a alternative Wargame show awards evolving soon. Okay, so I guess let's land on a position with the Jaws of Victory versus Third Winter. I'm landing on Third Winter. I will tell you that because I'm entrenched in OCS. I like OCS. I enjoy playing OCS, and I like Third Winter specifically. It covers a huge chunk of East Front for a period of about 8-9 months or something like that. Brian Jarvis, I should mention that actually. So I have been asked to do stuff for the San Diego Historical Games Convention. So, and since I'm going to do it anyway, I might as well play something too. So I signed up for a couple things, and we're going to be doing 2 OCS boot camp sessions at the San Diego Historical Games Convention, which obviously this year is online. So I do recommend check that out. You can, if you Google, I don't have a link for it. I'll try to put a link in the next show or something like that. But if you need the info, just Google San Diego Historical Games Convention. It will come up. All right, I think we got, whoever these red guys are, I think we got that done. All right. Well, honestly, Patrick, if there was one person who I think ought to get their copy of HSN as quickly as possible, it is actually you. Patrick is part of the reason why I don't do more with GCACW on the channel, because he's doing such great tutorial content on his channel. So, rolling endorsement on that. So I won't be doing giveaways at San Diego. I can tell you that. I think that's correct. Anyway, all right. Let's see where we are. We have another dead counter sheet. Let's grab another German sheet and keep going. We are about an hour in, so we have roughly an hour left. And once again, I would like to thank everybody for watching. It is not my birthday yet. My birthday is on Wednesday. So you'll get to find out, because I'm streaming with Dan on Wednesday, about just how cranky I am on my 50th birthday. There's an excellent chance that I will, in fact, be super, super cranky. Although for 40, it wasn't. I wasn't super cranky. For 30, oh boy, was I cranky. I mean, imagine being cranky because you just turned 30. How naive does that sound, right? Like, come on, boy, shut up. So I should reach back in time and slap myself for that. Jester, I would be happy to be there anytime. Saturdays are a little tough for me because Saturday is the day that my wife doesn't work, and we have that Saturday afternoon slot is often a time in which we are like out doing stuff. Nevertheless, I do tune in from time to time, usually not for the entire show though, because like I said, something's usually going on. But absolutely ask, and I'll try to make the time. John Longshore for Third Winter. It's actually, I've played the Germans. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of the Germans they're on the, so over the course of the campaign, they're on the defensive, but they still have a lot of ability to punch back. A lot of ability to punch back. And the Soviets, of course, have a lot of ability to absorb those punches too, but not an infinite ability. So I was asked, what are you going to do for your birthday? We're going to go out to dinner after the stream. And other than that, I might take it like a series of extended naps. That's where I think we're headed on my birthday. And I think I'm going to go out to lunch and get fancy ramen. That's my idea at North Market here in Columbus. If you come to Origins, across the street from the convention center is it's like there's a block of bars and stuff right across the street, and then behind that block there's a place called North Market, which is like a little food mall type of thing. And there's a ramen place in there. There's a bunch of other stuff that's very good as well, but there's a ramen place in there that's absolutely dynamite. At some point when we are closer to doing an Origins in person, which we might have this year, we'll see. I will... Oh, that's something else I should mention. I will have an extended conversation about Origins coming to Columbus, getting into Columbus, because I've lived here, but I was coming to Columbus for Origins before I lived here. So I've kind of done it all. I've eaten at every place in the general vicinity of the convention center. Don't go to Max and Irma's. It's a turd house. But I can give extended guidance for people coming in for Origins. So I got the second Moderna shot on Sunday. Is that right? Saturday? Friday? Might have been Friday. So, you're getting a shot. It's a small needle, so you shouldn't have too much arm soreness after the shot. I had quite a bit of arm soreness after the shot. That night, I ran a fever that was high enough that I felt delirious for a few hours, and then it broke. And then the next day, other than the sore arm, I was fine. Like really a quite sore arm. And then that second night after the shot, I had some breathing and coughing and congestion problems that may or may not have been related, but it was fortuitous timing if it wasn't, and it is a respiratory thing, that were close to giving me a lot of cause for concern. But once I laid down, it kind of abated, and I did get some sleep that night. And last night, which was the third night after, I had zero, or was that the night before? It was the night before. I had zero problems. So we are now in the fully vaccinated land, and we can go start to do stuff. So one of our local groups that has not met since the start of the lockdown is talking about getting started with weekly gaming again in early June, which would be awesome. So I'll be honest, I get told a fair amount that I don't look 50 years old, and I think that's true. Other than the enormous forehead, but I had a huge, I had a huge forehead in high school. That's nothing to do with that. It has receded a bit, but not that much. If I had the right haircut, which means I need a haircut, I could draw attention away from the enormous helicopter pad forehead. So, all right. I love North Market. There's all kind of cool stuff there. There's a Somali restaurant there that's really good, that's relatively new. There's a Mongolian place, I think it's Mongolian, that's really good. There's an Eastern European place that has really good, like kobasi and pierogies and stuff like that. There's Nita's Sushi, which I've never had their sushi, but their pad thai is really good. There's an Indian place, the name of which I don't remember, which is good. But honestly, the Indian place in the food court at the Hyatt, which is also right there, is, I think, better. But they don't have as much selection of stuff is the thing. But they like have a tandoor right behind them. You're like, oh, you want naan? Ooh. It comes out of the tandoor and they stick it in a paper bag and hand it to you, and it's awesome. The naan at the Indian place at North Market tastes like they warmed it up in the microwave. Not everybody has... you know what? 4 hours later, I would have been totally fine. I did not have any issues like during the day that day. Are we out of whiskey? We are now. Matt Taylor asks, is there a place that serves hot pot? Not immediate in the immediate vicinity of the convention center that I'm aware of. There is a hot pot restaurant on Bethel Road, right in front of Micro Center. So, which I've never eaten at, so I have no idea whether it's any good or not. But if you want hot pot, that's where I would go. I mean, one of the funny things about COVID is that everybody seems to have different symptoms, right? Some people gets like super sick to the point at sometimes beyond the point of actual death. Where's the extra baggies? Don't I have extra baggies here? Some people get super duper sick and or end up in the hospital and or on a respirator or something like that. And other people have, a bewildering mix of mild to severe symptoms, right? So when we had it in January, my wife got flu-like symptoms for a couple of days. When I got it in around the same time, I had really, really severe fatigue for about a week, and I lost my sense of taste and smell. And that was it. I had no other effects from COVID other than that. And, that's pretty, I had no reason to complain at that point. I don't want to derail, a Wargame show with too much talk about contemporary events. But I do not regret getting the vaccine. I am aware that there are side effects that some people have. I had some, but they weren't that severe. And they're over now. And everybody I was talking to said, whatever side effects I had, on the third day they were gone. And on my third day, they were in fact gone. So the sooner the vast majority of the populace is vaccinated, the sooner we can get back to normal and get to moving past this friggin' nonsense where we can't have events anymore. And by events, I don't even mean just wargaming events, although that's what I'm talking about. I mean baseball games and street festivals and normal experiences in restaurants and all that stuff. So, highly recommended. Anyway. That old chestnut says he lives in a medium-sized city for Iowa. I just made fun of Iowa today, oddly enough. 4,000 people, and we have 3 Mexican restaurants and a Chinese place. I could live with that. I mean, the Chinese, you never know. Chinese places here in Ohio, at least, are pretty variable. And we've never... There was a place... So Cleveland actually has an area that is called Chinatown. But it's called Chinatown because there's a bunch of Chinese restaurants there and not because it's a Chinese residential area. But there were a couple of really good Chinese restaurants up there, and frankly, I haven't had a comparable Chinese restaurant experience here in Columbus. Now, I am more than happy to say that I may just not have had the right place. That's very plausible, and I'm accepting recommendations. And it's less about being authentic, because I'm not a lot of them. If you want the authentic Chinese food, you need to order it off the menu that is in Chinese, and I don't speak or read Chinese, so I have sometimes talked to the person about the items on that menu and ended up with something that I really, really liked. And I've spent about 2.5 months of my life in Mexico, so I love Mexican food and would be happy to eat it all the time. I had no noticeable. So I got a little bit sick after the first shot, but I think that was not a vaccine side effect. I think I just had some kind of muscle cramp, like a week later. Panda Express is the Taco Bell of Chinese cuisine. I like Panda Express, but it is not Chinese food in any reasonable way. And they also have a fairly crappy selection, I think. Tavara 101 asks, is OCS historically accurate with the Soviet units? I'm not 100% clear on where you are going with that question, so if you'd like to rephrase it, feel free. But if you are asking if the OCS Soviet orders of battle are generally accurate, then yeah, I think so. There are also several game factors in OCS that are tweaked back and forward to balance the games out, and the most important of those are the number of supply points available, and the other is the action rating on the units. Generally speaking, I think how accurate the action ratings. I mean, action rating is an abstract measure of a whole bunch of different things, only one of which is troop quality. So, I've heard that about Moyes, actually. I should actually buckle down and just go. It's across the street from Ohio State. So thank you, Lynn, for that recommendation. So I want to say the answer is as accurate as Wargames are. I mean, I have yet to run into... So it is a challenge for wargame designers and OB researchers for wargames to construct accurate orders of battle for the Soviets in World War II. It's a challenge. It's less of a challenge now than it used to be, but at one point those records were just sealed away, and you had to go with whatever propaganda stuff the Soviet state saw fit to release, which contained a lot of bad information. That's how we got Enemy at the Gates, for example. So now there's a lot more good information, but the other challenge is it's in Russian. So you got to find people that are fluent in Russian to decipher that information. On the other hand, it's very easy to get British and Canadian and U.S. order of battle information for World War II because it's all in English. And even the French, right? You can find English order of battle information on the French army in World War II, certainly after 1944 and later. The Soviets present a number of barriers, including language, but also there were political barriers to getting that information. So if you're talking about OB, if you're asking whether the units are accurately the units and their capabilities are accurately represented, I mean, I'd say they are as much as they are in any wargame. Any wargame is going to have to make those kind of abstractions and compromises somewhere, whether it's in action ratings or supply points or in combat factors or whatever. We actually did eat at a Chinese. It was a bit of a tourist trap, but it was. I mean, we felt fabulous about it. The Chinese restaurant in Chinatown in San Francisco that we ate at. It was a pretty amazing experience. I don't know that it was necessarily because of authenticity, but it was like, hey, we're in San Francisco, we're in Chinatown, we're having Chinese food. This is great. So highly recommended if you can do it. There is also a Japantown in San Francisco, by the way, which I have heard is even a neater place to eat than Chinatown. So, and I think there's a Koreatown too, but I don't know anything about that. San Francisco is a neat town that I don't know how anybody can afford to live in. Boop. We have had a little bit of delamination with these counters, but I've always been able to just clip the corner off. The counters are thick enough that they're fitting kind of exactly in the slot. By the way, the counters in the Joe Balkowski Korean War from Compass are nice and thick, by the way, for those who like nice thick counters. Let me circle back to that. For those who have just tuned in, there's a lot of good food in San Francisco. A lot of good Asian food of whatever type of Asian food you want. There's a lot of good Indian food in the general area. There's a lot of good Mexican food. San Francisco is a wonderful food town, far more wonderful than Columbus, Ohio. And Columbus, Ohio is not bad for the Midwest, for random Midwest city. But the garlic-heavy restaurant, now I want to go back there just because there's a garlic restaurant. I want to go there. John, I completely 100. If you have the time to do it, because it does take a lot longer, obviously, to travel by rail. John says take Amtrak and rent a car when you're there. I completely agree. I've taken Amtrak from Wilmington, Delaware to Philadelphia, and it was a fabulous and an insanely comfortable experience. So, highly recommended over air travel. And I could have a whole thing about that. So, you get your plane. You got to buy the plane ticket. You have to buy it in advance. You don't get refunds if your plans change or anything like that. For rail travel, you walk up to the gate right before the train leaves. You get a ticket. You get on the train. You don't walk through security. You don't get patted down or irradiated or any of that. When you sit in your seat, it's a nice wide seat. You're not trapped in a tiny mini person, like child seat, like the airplanes have, so they can pack as many people in there as they can. Your seat reclines, actually not like this recline, like the airplanes do. But that's the recline. You can recline, and you have leg room and all that. It's so comfortable. In comparison, I hate air travel. I think it's hideously uncomfortable. I'm not a huge dude, but I'm not like some tiny person either. And I have a lot, but even when I'm sitting next to a tiny person, I feel like I'm all over them if I don't sit like this. It's awful, and I don't recommend air travel for those who can avoid it. If you can, and sometimes you just can't, you got to suck it up and deal with it, but because you got to get there in a certain amount of time. But if you can, absolutely. Travel by rail. It's so much better. Stinking Rose. Oh, no. Well, I don't really go out on the town. This is my out on the town time right here is what we're looking at. Garlic ice cream. Now, I gotta admit that sounds strange. I'd be curious to try it. I have tried bacon ice cream. I've tried bacon ice cream twice, two different kinds of bacon ice cream, and both kinds it was more weird than good, I thought. I think you could make it work, but it didn't quite work in either case where I tried it. That's actually true. Most of the garlic grown sold in the United States is grown in California. I forgot about that. And there is a garlic festival. Are these all just steps? Interesting. Okay. Best burritos in America are in the Mission District in San Francisco. Yes, I didn't get to try that to prove it, but I am guessing that you're right. So at some point in every counterclipping stream, we have abandoned talking about wargames because I've just talked about wargames for the last hour, and we are going to have to talk about other stuff. So that would not bother me at all. I got to tell you, Kaiser Bill, I got headphones. I just listen to headphones. I have had bacon donuts, and said this is not something I would eat all the time, but it is actually good. I mean, I've had the hamburger, the cheeseburger that's on glazed donuts too. So I love garlic. I am growing garlic chives in the herb garden out the door here. So we've planted. So far, what's actually planted is herbs and tomatoes and peppers, various kinds of hot peppers and bell peppers. San Diego, I imagine, has good Mexican food too. I will tell you that I never had anything that vaguely resembles authentic Mexican food here in Ohio. I'll just say that straight up. In California or in Texas or someplace like that, that's a little different. Kenneth Globy says, for those interested in the Peloponnesian War era, he suggests taking a look at Polis, 2nd edition. I've looked at that. That actually looks sort of neat. So I've got the reprint of the Victory Games Peloponnesian War, the Mark Herman game, which is a sort of hybrid solitaire thing. And then for tactical stuff, I have I think a few Peloponnesian War battles in various great campaigns of the American Civil War items. And I'm sorry, Joe, because that would suck. I love the smell of garlic and would like to eat more of it. And I have no social life, so I don't care if I smell like garlic. And my wife is not allergic to garlic. So, awesome. Stigler is having garlic trout this evening. That sounds amazing. I have had a negative allergic reaction to seafood sometimes, including trout and salmon. I think those are the two fish that I've had reactions to, are trout and salmon. And I like both, so it really kind of sucks. So, let me say again to thank everyone for stopping by this evening. And not everybody has the opportunity to rant. I did post a post about Twitter about the situation, and that's how they got in touch with me. But I didn't go into super great detail, but I was clearly pretty pissed at the time. And I knew this was coming, and well, you're not going to ask Sid Barrett anything, that's for sure. So, if you're asking me, Sid Barrett or David Gilmour, okay, so it's my opinion, and I've said this on message boards in the past, that I think Pink Floyd is the name of three quite different bands. There's the Sid Barrett Pink Floyd, which is about an album and a half, meaning the first album and a few of the songs on the second album. There's the Roger Waters Pink Floyd, and I assume, John, that you didn't include Roger Waters because of the three eras, his is clearly the best. I really like that first album from Pink Floyd, but it doesn't provide what you would necessarily think of as a Pink Floyd experience. I think the band has a very different sound depending on which era you are listening to, and I think a lot of the Gilmour era Floyd sounds the same, to be honest. That said, it sounds more like Pink Floyd than the Sid Barrett stuff did, I think. But again, that's only an album, album in 3 songs or whatever, as opposed to, curry. I love curry too. In fact, where we are going for dinner on my birthday is my favorite local Indian restaurant, which, if you are in the Columbus area, is Ab India. There are a couple of locations. We're going to the one in Bexley. So, love garlic. Anyway, and curry. I mean, sure, Gilmore for raw talent. No doubt about that. And certainly they did some good stuff under Gilmore. I won't argue with that either. But I think it's easy for me to pick out stuff when I hear something on the radio and say, "Oh, this is from Dark Side of the Moon," or "This is from Wish You Were Here," or "This is from The Wall," or "This is from any of the various," or "This is from Animals," or the various eras of Pink Floyd under Roger Waters. And I think it's less easy to do that with the David Gilmour era because it all kind of sounds like, Pink Gilmore. So we're a good half an hour away from the end. We are 30 to 35 minutes from the end. So let's check a couple things here just to make sure everything is cool. Yeah, so I mean, a lot of these bands, right? These guys end up working super closely together for guys or folks, because it's they're not all the bands are all guys. They end up working with each other so closely for years and years and years, and inevitably you end up with friction and sometimes sometimes sex, so it's not really weird, I think, for bands and band members to have this sort of weird hot and cold relationship with Fleetwood Mac, for example, has been like that for years. Where everybody hates each other, then suddenly they're doing another tour. So, it's interesting that in my late 40s, I have probably a better appreciation for Fleetwood Mac than I have in the past. And I don't know why that is particularly. I didn't set out, I should listen to some more Fleetwood Mac light rock. It's super light rock, actually. It's way lighter rock than I remembered it being, right? Or thought of it as. It's super light rock, and yet it is super listenable. John Launcher's asking about Napoleon's Imperium. So, a couple of things so there's an unboxing video of Napoleon's Imperium from last week's new release from Compass Games and designer Andrew Rowland. Andrew's a cool guy because he's Australian, so that automatically makes him a cool guy. Because he has to brave hazardous wildlife just to get to the office every day. But if you are looking for a simulation of the Napoleonic Wars or the Napoleonic period, I do not believe Napoleon's Imperium is the game that is going to satisfy you in that regard. On the other hand, if what you are looking for is a big multiplayer game that plays relatively quickly, and it's big, but it's not that big. It's 2 maps, which is a decent sized footprint, but it's not crazy big. We're done with the actual clipping. And it falls way closer into Axis and Allies with a splash of Empires in Arms than it does even to the extent of something like the Mark McLaughlin Napoleonic Wars from GMT, which is a game I actually like quite a bit. And have played several times. And I think is my short footprint go-to multiplayer Napoleonic Wars game actually is the GMT Napoleonic Wars. It's a very nice game. I've never played Empires in Arms, but playing Empires in Arms is a giant project that takes months to do. So I haven't had the chance to get Napoleon's Imperium to the table yet, but it looks very interesting, and I am quite excited about playing it. And I think it will get hauled to either Winterfest or Bucket Game Fest or Origins or something like that, and we'll try to get it to a table whenever we have an actual convention. I don't think my local group would get into it. So either of my local groups. Okay. Carl says he's mentioned the Devil's Cauldron and is now clipping his copy, which is fantastic. I have played the Devil's Cauldron and played the combined campaign, and it is a fantastic game. So you'll notice, and this isn't on purpose. This isn't weird for me to speak in very positive terms about MMP various games in any given weekly stream, even though I had a negative customer service experience with them this week. And again, we're trying to work through it. So let's hope it'll work out. Updates as I say as they arrive, but we will talk about it in depth. Hopefully we'll have figured everything out by then, by next Monday. So, reminder again, since we are in the bottom of the inning here, that tomorrow's video release is at 10 a.m. and it is a brief overview of the history of RuneQuest as a game, including Mithras, which is a current or near current spin-off, which is something that I happen to be sitting on handy at the moment. So let me also talk about the RPG thing. So I will be playing in a non-broadcast. We may decide to broadcast it in the future, but the intention at the moment is to not broadcast a Traveler game that, schedule permitting, I will be involved in as a player. It is my preference to Game Master normally, but I'm always delighted to play Traveler too. That's totally fine. And in fact, it's almost the only one of the very small number of games that I would even consider just playing. Krusty Capit says he's tried playing Gleam of Bayonets with the new GB ACW rules. Yeah, I think you're gonna have trouble with that. I don't think it's set up quite correctly. I think I prefer the current GB ACW rules iteration. I mean, I've certainly played more of it. Yeah, Steve, that's Pete Bartlett, and Pete's in the conversation as well. So he's not really a customer service guy. He's more like the PR, social media guy. Pete is a great guy. We met at Winter Offensive last year, and he is the guy who reached out to me and thanks Pete. And Pete stops by. I'm a little surprised we haven't seen him tonight, although the entire Multi-Men staff could be sitting at the office watching this tonight for all I know. But John's doing a lot of stuff for Compass that is not just being the social media guy, although he's doing that like really well. He's doing a lot of the development stuff at Compass as well. The Designer Signature series, which the Korean War is part of, is part of that. So let me talk about that. There will be an unboxing video, but I didn't want to do an unboxing video with bad counter sheets. So what you are going to see is not an unboxing. It will, and it might be this week and it might be next week. If it's not the Korean War this week, it'll be something else. If it's something else, it's likely to be OCS Korea. Thank you, John. So, back to MMP. But the third winner, a good title for OCS beginners. Let me get to that in a second. Of Korean war games that cover the whole Korean conflict, well, not the whole Korean conflict, because really it's got the active phase in 50-51. That cover that whole, the Korean War situation. The Victory Games Joe Balkowski Korean War is the best simulation out of all of them, and also happens to be quite highly playable. It is not like this monstrously complicated thing that takes 200 hours to play. We played it in 12 hours or something like that. Now, we didn't play all 12 turns, but it's a game that evolves beautifully during the game, as it should, as the actual campaign evolved through different phases. It does a lot with the geopolitical situation and UN commitment and stuff like that. That other things like OCS Korea, which I've played and which is a lot of fun, just doesn't handle. That's not just something not OCS just doesn't do. The Victory Games Korean War does that. Other than my counter registration problems, I am 100% pleased by what I have seen in that box. And we'll talk about that in the video whenever the video shows up. But I am 100% pleased. Aside from the, I got a couple new counter sheets coming. So glad to know I'm not the only. It wasn't just a terrible week. Just like, God damn it, I was waiting for this, and now it's wrecked. Will OCS Third Winter be a good title for OCS beginners? As such, no, but most OCS games, including Third Winter, have a scenario selection and a scope of scenarios that lend themselves to a lot of different involvement levels. So there are single map scenarios in there. There's multiple single map scenarios, including a thing called Scorpions in a Bottle, which is the Tarasky Pocket. So is it an optimal title for OCS beginners? No, I don't think so, just because of the amount of special rules for the particular volume that we're talking about. But at the same time, can you use it as a first entry into OCS? Yeah, I think you can. Just start with the smaller scenarios and work your way up. That's all. So, I mean, I'm not really trying to be like a critic here. I don't consider myself a critic. I call myself a content creator because I'm creating content, right? But we content creators exist in sort of a commentator class where people listen to what we say for whatever reason. And that, there's some Wargame blogs that are very good. There's some Wargame podcasts that are very good. And there's plenty of Wargame YouTube channels that are very good. At some point, we should probably talk about Wargame podcasts, actually, because I feel like there's a couple that I aggressively dislike. And I hate that because they're supposed, I wanted them to be good, to be better. One that I always listen to religiously is the one that Bruce Garrick is on and the one that David Doctor does. And I forget what the names of those are. Both of those are consistently worth my time to listen to. So thanks everyone for bearing with me on rant night. So I do. This is going to sound super narcissistic, and it is a little bit. I do actually listen to these myself at least once after the show, so I can make sure that if the flow's okay and it because I'm not super focused on flow right now. I'm focused on talking, and to make sure I didn't say anything stupid that I have to apologize for later. So because that could happen too. So, all right. So, I don't know. I don't feel like I've been all that mild about it. But what I do is I'm not a reviewer. Okay. What I do is I invite you, the people that watch my videos, into my wargaming life and my wargaming hobby so that I can share that experience with you. That is what the channel is about. And that's why I talk a lot about things like buying games. And we talk a lot about playing games too. But buying stuff and deciding what to buy and deciding what not to buy and all that stuff. And I have another channel idea, by the way, which is how to curate your collection, which we might do as a topic at some point as well. The Dunnigan interviews are worth a listen. Those are totally worth a listen, just because it's Dunnigan, and Dunnigan doesn't really talk in the wargaming space very much anymore. So totally worth your time. So we got about 18 more minutes. So anybody has any last minute questions, feel free to ask. I think we were at about 107, 109, which I think is not quite a record. But still, tons of people turned out, and I really do appreciate that. And I did get a little bit ranty. So let's see here. Messages. Okay, cool. So the I'm still the drama with MMP this week has not cooled me off on great campaigns of the American Civil War or OCS or GTS, which are I'd say my three favorite series from MMP, and I'd add Line of Battle to that as well. I think I'm following Line of Battle, but releases are infrequent enough that I don't get to mention it as often as I'd like to. I think Dunnigan's still running strategy page, and Dunnigan and or Al Nafi, I thought. I wonder if they're still running that 100 Years War thing, which is a very early attempt to do a computer war game. Oh, shoot! I forgot to mention this. So for those who don't know, and I guess I did mention it on last Wednesday's stream, John Tiller of John Tiller's software fame has passed away of brain cancer. John Tiller is one of two people that I can think of in the field of computer war games that have come close to fulfilling the promise of computer war games that was never delivered by anybody else, which was to have a really robust simulation and let the computer handle all the simulating while leaving the player with the the operational decision making. Really, only John Tiller and Gary Grigsby succeeded at that. So rest in peace, John Tiller. Great loss for the family and friends, obviously, for John Tiller Software, but for wargaming in general. I think John Tiller was doing more to, despite the primitive interface of his games, was doing more to push those kinds of computer war games forward than anybody else. Gary Grigsby's still working on it too. Gary Grigsby's War in the East 2 just came out not too long ago, and it looks good. And the first one's certainly very good. I mean, the title of the topic was, I wanted to talk about it. This is my outlet for talking about this stuff. So that's the cats trying to kill each other. There's been cat friction for the last few days. I don't know why. Yeah, that's true, but that's incidental. It's not necessarily just the fact that there's hex encounter format. It's that you have a standard format that you can go by that's pretty good at presenting information in a visual way. So we will Kilroy, thanks. We will be doing a channel of the week of a channel that I think is a good channel that you should be subscribed to. That is a smaller channel that's maybe only got a few hundred subscribers, or maybe even just a handful, that we will try to help out. I remember Bruce's videos on Dien Ben Phu, but unfortunately Bruce does like a video every 3 or 4 years. So, or I would recommend Bruce's channel. It's also going to have to be a channel that is regularly releasing content, which doesn't mean 3 or 4 times a week. I mean, it could be once a month. That's fine. But if I'm subscribed to virtually every wargame channel on YouTube, and as I subscribe to new ones as I find them, I am subscribed to a number of role-playing channels too, but I'm super selective about that. And there's a lot of role-playing channels that I just have no interest in being subscribed to. The wargaming space is tidy enough that I can subscribe to everybody and get a space of it. But if a channel's only releasing one video a month, even if it's a really good video, it may get lost in my feed because I'm subscribed to every other wargaming channel on YouTube, and Stuka Joe does 10 videos a day. So I'm exaggerating slightly, but Stuka Joe is doing, so the classics, right? Stuka Joe and the Player's Aid, who have been doing this less time than I have, but they do a really good job. It really helps. They're enormously. They gain enormous benefit by having 2 people instead of just 1 person. But they do a fantastic job. Callendale obviously is a cornerstone of wargaming on YouTube and so on and so forth. So and some other channels that helped inspire me to get started. And we talked about this in the roundtable with Stuka Joe and Mo and those guys. And this, I don't need to recommend Mo to you because Mo's got a big audience on his own now, and he's doing a great job. And Nate, the Gimpy Gamer, has plenty of people. A lot of people don't know about folks like Kilroy and other people who have just gotten started, and other people. And I've done these kind of like highlights before, but now I'm going to make it like an actual thing so that we mention it every week, and I put it in as part of the schedule. So that was the idea there. Very much looking forward to Hood Strikes North, though. It's an interesting campaign that hasn't gotten tons of action. There is it Hollenspiel, I think, did a John Tyson game that dealt with Hood's campaign in Tennessee. I think that's off the top of my head the only other game on that campaign at an operational level that I can name. It's funny, John, it's funny you should mention that. I've met Greg Smith. He's a nice guy. And it just never came together. So Greg is A nice guy, B is doing, I think, very solid design work in that space, and B is super gregarious and is easy to approach for interviews. I don't do very many interviews. I've done so I would consider the YouTube Creator Roundtable to be an interview thing. I have done some interviews. I did the interview with Bruce Maxwell, who's another person who is like glowing with excitement about his projects, and so he's super easy to interview. And the OCS guys, Curtis and Chip and Tony Burkett, that we did for the third winter. So now, we hit the third winner. The third winner hit its target while I was interviewing them on YouTube. So, and that's gotten a lot of views. What I always, this is not to be taken as a criticism of MMP specifically, because this is true of a number of older school wargame publishers who do not understand the internet space or the space of the online community around wargames and their games specifically. There's a lot of publishers that just don't get that. Hood's Last Gamble, thank you. That is the game I am thinking of. And they might look and say, "Oh, this, you only got 700 views on this video. We're printing 5,000 of this game. Why should we pay any attention to what you're doing here?" And without them realizing that that's like 700 people who were interested enough to click and then watch a bunch of stuff about their game, how many of those resulted in individual sales? I mean, isn't it, if 100 extra copies of, and bluntly, I might be responsible for 100 copies of Third Winter sold at this point. I talk about it almost every week. And I've had a lot of people say to me, based on your talking about this, I ordered this. Yeah, frankly, I think I'm making a significant positive impact on the games, at least the specific games that I talk about a lot. And I frankly talk a lot about OCS and GCACW and Great Battles of History and the Library of Napoleonic Battles. So, because those are my favorite game series, and there's probably some others as well. At some point, we're going to need to make some tough decisions about tidying up game library, and that is probably going to be a topic. I don't promise it for next week. We'll see. We might have Rant 2 Electric Boogaloo next week. We'll see. But again, like I said, I'm comfortable with the direction the discussion is proceeding at this moment. A lot of Decision is another one. I mean, do you think Decision understands that there's this pool of community surrounding their games? No, I don't think so. I don't think they have any awareness of it or knowledge of how to exploit it, or I don't want to use the word exploit, but how to leverage it. MMP does to an extent, at least the gamer side of MMP does, because they've got like a series development team for each of these series, and that's all. None of those people are getting paid. It's all volunteers. And you know, that is an example of leveraging your loyal community. So. Custer was a colonel at Gettysburg, I want to say. So GCACW, you really wouldn't see Custer with his own guys. On the other hand, he should be in Rebel Sabers, I want to say. Was he actually on the field in the main battle? I'm not sure that he was. But I'm not sure that he wasn't. But I know he was in like the extended battle that it took place off to the northeast or whatever that was, the cavalry side of the battle that never shows up on the maps in Gettysburg games. So, Triumph of Chaos, cool looking game. I think it's probably worth the trouble, but it's a lot of trouble. Imperium Romanum is the new one is from Decision. I don't. So the last. So this may be discussed in more detail in the Decision Games Rant show, but the current version of Imperium Romanum has a rule book that is maybe not the most clearly written rule book ever. The last version of Imperium Romanum 2 from West End Games, did not have the world's most clearly written rulebook. But it's also a fairly unconventional game, and that's part of the reason why people sometimes have trouble grokking it. Because it's like this operational game that sometimes you have this... It doesn't feel like operational is the right word for it, but it is. But you have like this scenario that takes place over 10 years or something like that. So, you know, it's a hard game, and there's like tons of paperwork. So and so in a way, you would want the game to have been improved more than it was over the previous edition because they're doing this fancy new edition. Improving older products is historically not a strength of Decision games. Generally speaking, they have been able to enhance them a little bit. Graphically, they've been able to enhance them quite a bit in many cases. Design-wise, enhanced maybe a little bit with the addition of some options. A lot of times they have gone too far with those changes and made negative changes. So it's a mixed bag, right? And when I say mixed, I mean often negative, I guess. But nevertheless, I've looked through the new Imperium Romanum and am reasonably pleased with it. I think there's a very good chance we will get it to the table locally at some point. And it is a really fascinating and unique game. So, did I refill this and drink it all already? I'll have to review the chat log to find out if that's the case. We are not going to fill back up at 10 o'clock. Because after this, we might be doing some dishes or some other tedious housework. Kilroy was here, says he's starting in OSG's Library of Napoleonic Battles, thinking about OUS. So, reasonable starting point for OCS. The real question is going to be, which reasonable starting point for OCS is available at this moment? First of all, I would recommend looking at NWS Online. Google NWS Online or NWS Wargaming Store. You'll get the best prices from them. The other question is, what's available right now? So what's available right now? Beyond the Rhine is, in many ways, I think, the absolute dead last worst choice for a beginner to OCS. It is a very advanced OCS game. It will not work right if you are not quite familiar with OCS. Hungarian Rhapsody is the newest release, and it is also a pretty bad choice. It's got a lot of different stuff in it that's non-standard for OCS. It's got a lot of special rules. I don't recommend it as a starting game. Blitzkrieg Legend and Smolensk are available. Blitzkrieg Legend is I don't recommend as a starting game. It's like a 2 1/3 map game, but it's nevertheless it's a lot bigger game than it feels like than it looks like it is when you're setting it up, and it ends up taking longer to play per turn. But even though it only runs like 15 or 18 turns or something like that, Smolensk is a pretty good game. It does not have a lot of special rules. The density is relatively high, but there are smaller scenarios. I feel like Smolensk is the smallest possible OCS game that nevertheless has all of the possible OCS parts that you want to be able to experience in an OCS game while playing OCS. Tunisia 2, which is another one that's often recommended, is sold out. The Korea is actually pretty good. If you want like a really good, relatively low density, basic introduction to the way the basics of supply work in OCS, Korea is actually like the first 15 or turns or so of Korea is I think worthwhile. And I said that when we were playing. I'm like, this is actually would be a really good introductory OCS scenario. Is that Korea game that for the first. Like up to the Busan perimeter type of thing. Let's see here. Alan Salazar mentions Coin. I haven't talked much about Coin. Part of that is because I haven't played any Coin games any time recently. Coin could be its own clipping topic, or for that matter, card-driven games in general. We might be doing that. CDGs at some point with Dan, actually. Kaiser Bill, that is the actual function of like game reviews, right? Is not to say this guy said he likes this game, so therefore I like it and I'm going to buy it. It's to say I am familiar with this person's reasons why they like things and why they don't like things. And when they talk about how this product, whatever it is, as a game or a movie or whatever, fits into those thought processes, I can decide for myself whether I would like it or not, regardless of whether they landed on a positive or negative impression on it. John Longshore, I don't disagree with that. Maybe even a print and play type thing. Maybe that's a good idea. I think a small print and play OCS game is not a bad idea. They've done that before with the Napoleonic Battle series, and it sounds like it didn't work because the series is dead. Mo, I disagree with that. I think there's some of them that play very radically different from others. I think something like A Distant Plane plays very differently from Pendragon, for example. I mean, certainly there's a core mechanism there that is shared across the games, but because of the structure of a coin game, it is possible for them to vary considerably. Plus, something like Gandhi, where you have like non-violent factions. I mean, how's that work, right? It's like this is super weird. So I disagree with that. I don't think that's necessarily true. Now, certainly there are multiple coin games that feel like very similar games, right? But I haven't played them all, right? The Players Aid has played them all, so they did a coin comparison video, and go watch that. It's very good. It's like an hour long, but I haven't played them all. I've played Liberty or Death, which I like a lot, Pendragon, which I like a lot, possibly even more. I've played A Distant Plane. I've played one more, Falling Sky, I think is the other one that I've played. I have Gandhi and I have Fire in the Lake, are the other ones I have. I'm not buying them all. I'm buying the ones that I'm interested in. The one that's coming up that I'm interested in seeing, but I haven't pre-ordered it, is China's War, which is on the Sino-Japanese War. And I'm not sure how well that's going to work. We'll see. I'm curious to see it. And the science fiction one actually looks pretty neat. So people are saying it looks like The Expanse with the serial numbers filed off, and that's sort of true. But I mean, that whole Mars rebelling thing Babylon 5 did that. SPI did that or Decision's doing that with the Mars Revolts little mini games and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, maybe that's a little more topical now because we've just had The Expanse. By the way, let me mention that because it's awesome, and then we'll do the final stuff here. The Expanse is awesome, and you should watch it if you're into sci-fi. It's the best recent science fiction show at all, I think. Highly watchable. It's on Amazon Prime. You can just watch the whole thing now. There's going to be one more season, and then we'll see if it comes back or not, because there's reasons why it may or may not come back. So anyway, I would like to first of all thank everybody for stopping by. We've had enormous number of people in here tonight, so we had very good but non-record numbers. So I'd like to thank everybody who has stuck around all this time and has listened to me, not just tonight, but time after week after week after week of me ranting now for several months. So I do have the video coming up, the RPG video on RuneQuest tomorrow. There may be more RuneQuest content coming. I'm still kind of trying to figure out how that's all going to work. And I was going to talk about the RPG decision I'm trying to make, and we didn't really get to that either. So we are streaming with Dan at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Monday. And then there will be an unboxing video on Thursday, which may or may not actually turn out to be the Joe Belkowski Korean War. Mo, I hope that your counters were okay, as opposed to mine and somebody else's in the chat for Korean War. I thought I sent you a instant message on that, but maybe I didn't. I forgot. But yeah, mine, fairly bad registration problems on one of the sheets, and slightly less bad registration problems on another one of the sheets. So, anything else I want to talk about before we call it a night? So we will obviously be back here again on Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Do check out, I don't have a link for you this week, but do check out the San Diego Historical Games Convention, which is an online event. It's Harold Buchanan's event. It looks great. He's got a lot of super duper high profile people there, including Volko Ruhnke and Mark Herman, and here's a huge list of important people, not including myself, who are going to be there. So that might have sounded like not like I meant it. So if that sounded incredibly narcissistic, I don't apologize exactly, but I meant it less narcissistically than it probably came out. So I haven't watched your video yet. Did that come out today? I got to watch that, because I am watching other people's unboxings of it. So again, thanks everybody for watching, and don't forget to support the channel, and I will see you all next week.